Hey, this is Math Minutes Pro with Dr. Harrison. Today we're going to talk about special right triangles. And we're going to be dealing with a 30, 60, 90 right triangle and a 45, 45, 90 right triangle. Now there are some rules that we have to consider. We'll also mark up or label the pictures that are given. This is a typical geometry problem. I always recommend you mark up the picture based on what you understand about the picture. And then after you mark it up, you see if you can turn this picture into an equation based on the information provided, and then bring it into the world of algebra and solve the problem. So we're going to go through those steps. So let's first start with the 45, 45, 90. In terms of marking up the picture, we know that this is a right triangle because we have a box right there in the corner. And the side that is opposite the right triangle is always the hypotenuse. Okay? That's always the hypotenuse. And in reference to the fact that we have a 45, 45, 90, these are referred to, the sides here are referred to as legs. So side U and side V are both legs. And this side, 8 times the square root of 42, is the hypotenuse. So we've marked up the picture based on what's given. We consider. Now, also, this is a special type of triangle, okay? If this is 45 degrees, then this has to be 45 degrees, right? And the two angles, base angles, are equal, so that means that their sides are equal. That means we are dealing with what type of triangle? Yes, isosceles. So I'll write that down. This is an isosceles triangle. That's what we have here. When you have two angles that are equal in a triangle, and you have, or sides, you're dealing with the definition of an isosceles triangle. All right, so we've marked it up based on what we understand. Now let's consider the rule that applies to solving a special right triangle that is a 45, 45, 90 degree right triangle. Well, the first rule, or the basic rule, is that the hypotenuse is equal to square root times the leg. That's our rule. So now think about it. Always think about what you're going to do ahead of time before you start doing something, so you have a plan. We know that both U and V are equal, right? So I'll just put that up here somewhere. We know that U is equal to V. So if we find the length of one leg, that means we found the length of both legs. So let's go ahead and substitute following this rule or this equation. Now the length of the hypotenuse is 8 times the square root of 2, substituting that for the hypotenuse, and that's equal to the square root of 2 times a leg. I'll just pick V. Now, we need to solve for V, so now we're going back into the world of algebra, right? We've turned this picture into an equation, and when your algebra is solid and strong, you can solve this geometry problem. So we're going to solve for B. We need to get rid of the square root of 2. So the opposite of multiplying V by the square root of 2 is to divide. So I'm going to copy this again. 8 times the square root of 2 equals square root of 2 times V. And now we're going to divide both sides by the square root of 2. So dividing this by square root of 2, dividing this side by square root of 2 to balance the equation. Yes, this crosses out, and this crosses out here. Square root of 2 divided by square root of 2 is 1. Last step, bring down that 8 equals V. So remember, if we know that V equals U, so V equals 8, and we also know that U. Make that look like a U. U equals 8. So this is our final answer. We have solved this special right triangle of 45, 45, 90 using the rule hypotenuse is equal to square root of 2. We marked up the picture based on what was given, right? And then we wrote our rule, and then we substituted and used the algebra to find the answer. So now let's move on over here and talk about this 30, 60, 90 degree triangle that we're dealing with. So, let's see here. I think I'm going to start out by doing the same thing we did over here, which is mark up the picture based on what's given. Here's the right triangle. Here's the right triangle. We have a box right here. So that means this side opposite that square box, this side is our hypotenuse. So I'm going to write that, hypotenuse. Okay. Now in the 30, 60, 90, you have two legs here, but one is called a short leg and one is called a long leg. In a previous video I had, we found that when you're comparing degrees, angles in a triangle, you have to consider also the corresponding sides. So if this is a 60 degrees, then this has to be 30 degrees because they add up to equal 90, and 90 plus 90 is 180. And since the smaller angle is 30 degrees right here, the side opposite is y, this is our short leg. So I'm going to put short leg. That's our short leg, y, and since this is the larger angle comparing 30 and 60 degrees, this right here is our long leg. So I'll just write long leg. Long leg. All right. Now, there are two basic rules that apply to this 30, 60, 90 right triangle, special right triangle. One is that the hypotenuse right here is equal to 2 times the short leg. Hypotenuse equals 2 times the short leg. And the other rule is that the long leg equals the square root of 3 times the short leg. So we're going to take those two rules one at a time and solve for both y and x. Let's start out with the rule comparing the hypotenuse and the short leg. So I'm going to write that out. We have the hypotenuse equals 2 times short leg. 2 times short leg. All right, so we have that there. Let's go ahead and substitute based on the information that's given, okay? Oh, and by the fact that we saw that this is an isosceles triangle because two angles or two sides are equal. Here we have a case where all the sides are different or all the angles are different, and that is a scalene triangle, okay? So I'm just going to put that in there. We want to think about everything we know, all right, when we're dealing with marking up the picture based on what's given. So the hypotenuse, let's go ahead and substitute. The length of the hypotenuse is 10 equals 2 times, and the length of the short leg is y. We don't know what that is, so we just write y. Very good. Now, let's go ahead and copy that again because this is a fairly simple case of solving for y. So I'm going to copy that again. 2 times y. The opposite of multiplying by 2 is to divide by 2. Divide both sides of the equation by 2. Cross that out. And we get y equals 5. All right. So we have solved for one side of this special right triangle. We know that y equals 5. Now, let's take the other special rule or equation for the 30, 60, 90 right triangle. And that is that the long leg equals square root of 3 times the short leg. So we have long leg equals square root of 3 times short leg. Go ahead and substitute. All right. Now we know the length of the long leg is x as we marked up the picture. So we substitute x for the long leg equals square root of 3, bring that down, times short leg. We found the length of the short leg y, which is equal to 5. So we write 5. Therefore, x equals 5 times the square root of 3. And we found both answers, here for y and here for x. We have successfully solved this special right triangle. We found the length of both x and y. So thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to check out my Patreon page on my video description below. On my Patreon page, you can get access to exclusive math lessons, study tips, live Q&A, and more. See you next time.